Good afternoon. The time is now 1:30 p.m. on Monday, April 8th, 2024. And I would like to call the meeting of the St. Johns County Cultural Resource Review Board to order. I think we have someone on the phone. Are they on hold?
Yeah.
Okay, very good. I wanted to read a public notice first, as I always do. The Cultural Resource Review Board serves as an advisory board which makes recommendations to the Board of County Commissioners. This is a properly noticed public meeting held in accordance with requirements of Florida law. Members of the public will be given reasonable opportunity to be heard on propositions before the board as those items are addressed on the agenda. For public comments on matters not being considered by the board today, a general public comment period will be provided to address the board on matters within its jurisdiction. Each person addressing the board shall limit comments to 3 minutes. Person shall not address the board or any member thereof unless specifically recognized by the chairperson to do so. Once recognized, members of the public shall address their comments to the board as a whole. Public comment is intended for the board to hear from the public and shall not be considered an opportunity to demand immediate responses from the board or its members. Board members shall not engage in dialogue with persons making public comment unless the question or comment is directed through the chair or made with permission of the chair. Do we have any public hearing items on the agenda today? We do not. So I think we are, we're going to take roll call. Ms. Robert Olson? Here. Janet Jordan?
Here.
Susan Sheldrup?
Here.
Blair Knighting?
Here.
Christine Newman?
Here.
Leslie Keys?
Here.
And I'm here, Nick Janahakis, present. Great, thank you. Next item in order is the general public comments for items not on the agenda. And if there's anyone that needs to be heard, please let us know and you will have 3 minutes.
Yes, sir. Hi, this is Ed Splavin. Can y'all hear me?
We can.
Thank you. Thank you for your service, and thank you for opening this to public comment and doing this by phone. I was very disappointed, though. Your last meeting was canceled. Now, your meetings are noticed a year in advance, and the subject matter of this board is critical to preserving our history and nature in St. Johns County. It's of the essence that we have every meeting held, and every meeting has public comment. And I told Mr. Malk I was very disappointed that he basically canceled the prior meeting that was already noticed, and we were deprived of a public comment opportunity, and we were deprived of the opportunity to bring things to the attention of the board. And when you look at the fact that administration pressured Trey Alexander Asner to quit because he was doing his job too well for preserving African American history, every single one of your meetings needs to be televised. And that hasn't been done yet. We were supposed to have both CRRB and LAMP televised and streamed, and somebody dropped the ball on that. And then the last meeting wasn't even held. I know that people in the building that you're in, some of them, Mr. Roberson, apparently think that you're going to scare off developers if we do too good of a job preserving our cultural resources. That dog won't hunt. People love St. Johns County. Our history is some of the best in the country, 455 plus years. And they're afraid that doing our job to preserve our cultural resources is going to scare off developers. That's crazy. Mr. Roberson is uneducated and unqualified, and he was confirmed for his job without even a resume at a very quick 2-minute discussion at the end of a county commission meeting, and it wasn't even on the agenda. We need a new head of growth management. We need to bring Trey Asner back, and we need to let every St. Johns County employee and citizen know that they can speak out without fear or favor, and that we will no longer tolerate intolerance, and we will no longer tolerate retaliation. Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King said in 1964 that St. Johns County was the most lawless place in America. And when we hire a county attorney without even an application, as we did, and when we hire a county administrator without even an application or a background check, and Hunter Sinclair Conrad turned out to be an unindicted co-conspirator in a federal bribery indictment. Anyway, I thank y'all for your service, but this business of canceling that meeting, that really stuck in my craw, and I told Mr. Malk that. Let me just use the words that I used the day that Tom Manuel was arrested for bribery, St. Johns County Commission Chair. I called him up and I said, Tom, don't do that again. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for your service.
Thank you. All right, is there anyone else with any public comments? I will make an unsolicited comment so you could hear it on the phone. The meeting had no agenda items, and it is within our rights, if I am asked, to cancel that meeting, and that is what we did. Just so you're aware of it, this meeting also had no agenda items other than a report that's coming in, and we also had rights to cancel this one, but we didn't because we need to have at least 4 meetings within a year. Just for your notice. Thank you.
Need to stick to your schedule, and that doesn't really constitute a valid reason for canceling the meeting. I mean, if you don't want to serve, then don't serve. But please don't schedule a meeting and then cancel it. There's only 6 a year. Our rights matter, and I don't see where you have a right to cancel the meeting.
Let's go ahead and stop the phone line. We're done with comments on this item. Thank you. All right. The next item is the approval of meeting minutes from December 11th, 2023 meeting. Are there any corrections that we need to make? Anyone have any comments?
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Go ahead and speak up. Yeah, you make a.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes. I
Okay.
didn't see any issues.
All right. That was Miss Blair Knighting, and anyone else seconded it? Okay, it was seconded by Miss Susan Sheldrup. I think the minutes from the December 11th, 2023 meeting are approved.
Can you take a vote?
Yeah, let's take a vote. Sorry about that. Mr. Olson,
Yes.
Miss Jordan,
Yes.
Miss Sheldrup,
Yes.
Miss Knighting,
Yes.
Miss Newman,
Yes.
Miss Keys?
Yes.
And I will also say yes. All right, so they were approved unanimously. The next item is the approval of the current agenda. We have 2 agenda items. And the first one's the structure survey process and National Register District process. And the second item is the Hastings Main Street Incorporated, I assume it's an update by Ms. O'Hare. All right, do we need to vote on the approval of the agenda?
I move that we approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Okay. Approval of the current agenda was made. And that'll bring us right into the,
We'll need a vote for that as well.
let's vote on that, the agenda items. Mr. Olson,
Yes.
Ms. Jordan,
Yes.
Ms. Sheldrup,
Yes.
Ms. Knighting.
Yep.
Ms. Newman,
Yes.
and Dr. Keys.
Yes.
And I will also vote yes, thank you. Okay, so the current agenda items were approved. And that'll bring us right into our first item of the agenda.
Okay, so our first item, I'm just going to do a pretty quick presentation. At our last meeting, there was some different discussions going on, some from the public, some from you guys, so I just wanted to bring that back around. It was a while ago, but we'll get you guys some answers. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is how to initiate an additional survey. There was discussion about expanding the North A1A corridor survey. There was discussions about potentially in Hastings and also in Crescent Beach. So the first step in going forward with getting a survey started is going to be some direction from you guys to staff so that I can go forward through the process. So since we talked about so many different locations, if it's the board's will, I will ask for direction on exactly which area you guys would like to prioritize for this session. So that will be the first step, and I'll hope for that today. And then the second step is going to be staff. I'm going to go ahead and apply for a small matching grant through the DHR. Those are available to us as a certified local government, and because we are a certified local government, we will not have to provide the match. So we can get up to $50,000 with no match. The application submission period did start at the beginning of this month and will run through June 1st, which is kind of why I'm pushing for that direction from you guys as to the area that we want to survey. After that, we will reach out to different consultants and get a variety of proposals to meet our needs, and then we will hire a contractor that is within the budget that we have through the grant. One thing that I just wanted to bring up, this is directly from the state, is just some of their criteria that they use to decide who receives the grant. So they take into consideration the historic significance of an area, whether it is aligned with the state's preservation goals, financial and technical adequacy of the organization applying, and different things like that. So that's just something to keep in mind. And the last thing I will say, this is just a part of the conversation. It's definitely not, you know, the full part, but with the surveys that we already have, we have a pretty recent one in Hastings, pretty good comprehensive recent survey in Hastings. We have the one that we just did in the North A1A corridor, which I know we talked about expanding, so it's not just the corridor. However, Crescent Beach, the last survey that was completed in that area was 2001 and there's been smaller surveys that have been completed, but for the mass majority of that corridor, that was back in 2001. So of course there's new properties that would be recorded now, and just some more updated recent information, a better determination of significance that could come from a survey there. So again, that's just one point of conversation that I would like to bring to everybody's attention. That's not the full story, so I will turn it over to you guys for now before I go into the next part of my presentation, if you guys would like to discuss the area that we should move forward with.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes. Dr. Keys?
I would like to suggest a merger on both of what you presented, since it's still A1A Scenic Highway, it just happens to be St. Augustine. And both of those are extremely vulnerable. They've witnessed plenty of hurricanes in the last couple of years. Another one of their priorities has been resilience. And so I think that would help them rank really well on that. You can certainly, this is the 20th anniversary of Charlie, Francis, Ivan, and Jean. So timing is good on that. But also note that this, hopefully you signed up for one of the webinars. So yes, and we all should be asked for individual letters of support before we're allowed to provide those. So that's, if it's appropriate yet for a motion, I would move that both Crescent Beach and A1A North be considered as one grant proposal for the full $50,000.
Let's talk about that.
Let's have a second first.
Yeah,
so we can talk about that.
Yeah, you're right. Good point. I'll second.
Okay, so it was brought up by Dr. Keys and seconded by Ms. Knighty.
Through the chair, if I may, if it's helpful, I can bring up a map.
Yes.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Please. I'm like trying to look at it.
Yep.
So hey,
We don't let you out very often.
Yeah. Dr. Keys. Have you looked at how? Because 50 grand doesn't go that far, right? With the survey, so typically the max you're gonna get is like 300. Ford Western side falls out of that for the report. So I'm wondering are you thinking there's enough left in the North Milano and Crescent Beach to cover that? Or I just want to see what your thoughts are on that. By combining, that's what I'm curious.
I'm trying not to make a decision that would shortchange one over the other.
Gotcha.
And I think that unfortunately, the weather has influenced some, so that you're going to see an analysis, but you may not see a great number of resources added.
Both?
Well, certainly Crescent Beach is, I mean, the the two Mellon properties, the hut and the lodge, are being resurrected, but were extremely damaged. The waterways have silted in, so you've had a great deal of changes down there in the last 20 years.
Do we know how many is, because I know we have a recommendation for the North Volato, this survey report. Did it say how many were remaining that they recommended we resurvey?
I don't believe that was a part of the report. I would have to go back to double check. But I do think it's a good point that, you know, the 50,000 is only going to go so far.
Yeah. So
But
we have to argue.
yeah, the only point I'll make there is I think it's about priority, right? And I think there's always next year for more surveys. I think these grant options are always available to us every year, so just to keep that in mind. But I agree that it's hard to place one over the other. They're kind of in the exact same boat as far
Well,
as vulnerability.
It's also possible, since Northwood has a better address, how's that for being snooty? And there are private foundations located in that corridor that might be able to bump those. She's looking very perplexed.
I'm thinking.
I don't think you have the demonstrated financial assistance in the south end that you could pull from the north end. Like the past CEO of T-Mobile just bought that $22 million house in Ponte Vedra. Maybe he has a tax problem. Or the American Airlines CEO, lives in Ponte Vedra, and maybe they would be interested in supporting some of this. Is all I'm saying.
Mr. Chair,
So you don't
I guess I have some questions for the board members that have brought up information, and I guess one for maybe staff. When would we know we're talking about, how much can be studied within the grant amount, the maximum grant amount? When will we know how much the work we're discussing, various variations of it, when will we know how much that costs? Not until we get the grant and bid it, right?
Yeah, basically, and I think we'll have a good idea basing it off of that recent survey that we just did for North A1A. So I can go back and see how many properties that were on that, and we can kind of compare to how many we might be able to get with this
Okay.
one.
Okay, I'm wondering, at least I guess it could be possible that what we want surveyed north and south, Crescent and A1A North might be able to be. I'm not sure that we were the A1A one, as I recall, there was a couple areas that had not been included in the last survey. And one was the Sinclair Lewis house. It's called the Sinclair Lewis house.
Right.
And the others were some rather classic mid-century modern residential houses, single-family houses along a street paralleling north or south of Volano Road, but immediately south of Volano Road. And I'm very interested in knowing about the two properties you cited in the Crescent Beach area. But I'm wondering whether we could apply or include an application that includes the Crescent Beach properties that are most interested in surveying and an area in A1A North Volano. And bid an alternate to so that we can peel down the scope if it exceeds 50,000. We're at the airport authority now. We're bidding a project that has 3 different alternates. So the bidders say, if this is the scope, this is our bid. If this is the scope, so we have the ability, if the prices come in over budget, to stay with a certain narrower scope.
Okay.
I don't know if that works or not, but anyway, one of the questions I have is what the Crescent Beach two properties that were cited. Maybe everyone else in the room knows what they are, but I don't. I'm not sure.
Uh,
The Sutton, Hutton,
Called the Hut and the Lodge, which, again, you can Google, but Mellon family descendants, Tom Schmidt and his wife out of Pittsburgh, still own them. They were severely damaged in Matthew and Irma. But Sarah Ship-Ryan is the architect, and they are putting them back together again. The state has agreed that based on the hurricane damage, even though it compromised them, that they're gonna let them rebuild as we're going back up. So they happen to be, again, early 20th century, so they're about 10 years old now. And it says Mellon family did the Lerner Art Center in Palatka. This is so just, again, part of that sort of Gilded Age that came here and invested in Florida. And just a thought on that, you're doing an update to the survey. So therefore, a lot of the history doesn't need to be repeated. In
Yeah.
other words, we're not starting from ground zero. The other part is if the University of Florida's phone app survey tool technique is now open source public, you can do a whole lot for a lot less money. It used to be more than $100 a survey. So this has been around since they were like $5 a survey. But anyway, they're done on iPads now or your phones, so it's not near as complicated as it used to be. So the dollars ought to go further. To answer the question on the time frame, grants due June 3rd. The application will be reviewed October 3rd in Tallahassee. Florida Historical Commission will make a recommendation at that time. It's like golf, so you want the lowest score possible. That ranking list will be released then, and it will go into the legislative budget, and then we go into our usual 60-day purgatory with the Florida legislature. We'll find out next spring what gets recommended. But
And you wind up with a very short period to actually do the work.
Oh, yeah.
In some
Okay.
cases.
well, yes, because actually the money gets released July 1st of 2025, and they tell you to set aside the first 3 months for the agreement to be signed. So you need to be ready to leap on October 1st. But think about trying to do $1 million building project in that amount of time.
Do you mind bringing up, do we have the map that shows what was covered in the last Solana survey?
Yeah.
Do you know, cause I'm sorry, I don't remember, we looked at it a year ago, right? I don't remember.
Give me a second to find it, but I know it's somewhere in all these folders.
Through the chair though, Doctor, cause you do have a very good point that it is, the Crescent Beach would be an update. Yeah, so that would be,
And so with the North,
it's already been,
yeah, in other words, a huge amount of that that gets
Yeah.
generated, as you know, as a consultant, is to rehash
yeah.
prehistory all the way up to the present. We probably don't need,
well,
that doesn't need to be redone again, so you're really just looking at the physical properties themselves. And since one of those mid-century moderns happens to be the Mile House that you've already documented, again, we gotta have some cost savings on this, we're not reinventing the wheel.
I think for the Bolano, as I remember, it was properties outside the surveyed area. That surveyed area was a delineated area with boundaries. So it wouldn't be resurveying. In that case, it would be surveying what's outside that original study area.
Right, but I think that the narrative history that was written probably covers the entire area or comes close to
Yeah.
it. So you're literally doing the site file forms for the individual properties, but you don't have to do a huge
Okay, yeah.
amount of money spent on
Yeah.
researching history again.
Except specifically in the Crescent Beach area, we're talking about an additional 20-something years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I mean,
So
the
there would
Bolano
be
piece
quite a- yeah.
is pretty recent.
Yeah, you probably just have to add the mid-century post-war history portion, cause they probably didn't talk about it in 2001, because it wasn't.
And you have things like demolition of Marineland, you can
That'd be nice.
So is this a previous survey that we're seeing on the board?
This is the North A1A survey that was completed. So we've got these sections through here and then down through. So that's more like Ponte Vedra Beach. And then this is Volano area.
So those are probably just the, well, they're not really quads, but the sheets that they showed up on. Whereas I think they didn't go into the neighborhoods much. Oh, nope, they didn't
Correct.
there. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
What was the time frame on that one?
2022 it shows.
Yeah, see, that's not, really?
What
There can't
area
be
are
that
we-
many more in
What
two.
area are we looking at now? This is not.
This is Ponte Vedra.
Must be Crescent Beach.
This is Ponte Vedra right here.
Yeah,
Oh, okay, you're north.
You need to
Okay.
go to sheet 15.
Well,
I
and
think what it said, right? Start.
honestly, I think you're gonna need the south end to justify why you need to resurvey 2 years later. Because we haven't had any major storms or anything else that would justify a resurvey in that short amount of time. And 20 years is what the state encourages as far as a resurvey.
Well, do we need to survey the northern areas of, like Ponte Vedra Beach? Do we need to revisit that, or just maybe what was missed on the south area? In the first survey, in the earlier survey 2 years ago.
So this is in the Volano area, so that stopped about a block in.
Yeah.
So none of this was surveyed.
Am I assuming the ones that don't have a color, they weren't old enough to be surveyed? Is that what it was?
I think that's what this is, yeah.
There's a
Yeah.
lot of,
Yeah.
there's been a lot of
Yeah.
scrape offs and reconstruction.
And a lot of infill.
Yeah.
As everybody moved north and south and wanted water access.
So could we even call this a split A1A survey, since it's not really A1A that we're,
Well, again, I think you're gonna have a really hard time justifying focusing on that area 2 years after you just finished it.
Well, I think we need to find the area that we didn't do, right? What's the area that they didn't get to?
It,
There
in
was an
North,
expansion north of the bridge and towards the neighborhoods, basically.
Yeah, I mean, again, I sound like a broken record, but the Sinclair Lewis house is on Surfside, about 4 blocks in.
Oh, so you're saying
Right.
west?
Yeah,
West of
west.
A1A needs to
Yeah.
be done.
But do we know that is it isolated or are there more houses there? Because you can have somebody just do one site file form.
I'm trying to recall.
It's-
There are
and-
earlier built houses there. I don't know if they date back to the 1930s when Lewis was spending winters there writing Pulitzer Prize.
Yeah, well, again, if you're focused on his house, that's bad. You could just have your staff person do that.
Oh, well,
I mean, I don't know if that's,
Sure.
Or someone could volunteer.
I mean,
or-
yeah, if that's possible.
every time we write a grant for a property, those of us writing grants have to do a new site file form.
Okay, well,
So
Okay.
it's not, then you get immediate gratification.
And Dr. Hughes, you don't think that there's enough down in Crescent Beach to do a survey by itself?
Oh, I think there probably is. I'm just saying if you wanted to try to use resilience along A1A as your theme to justify, since again, you did one 2 years ago, theoretically up here, that might give you a way to partner the two of them. I think Crescent Beach is your stronger piece. Because it hasn't
That's the
been
way I
studied.
was leaning.
It hasn't been studied for more than 20 years.
Yeah.
And we've had a lot of hurricanes hit. I mean, again, having gone down and checked right afterwards.
Right.
But can I redirect a little bit? Let's assume that we are going to say that one of the pieces is going to be the Sinclair Lewis house specifically. It's a small piece. Maybe we could have someone on staff or on the board volunteer
Yeah.
some time and effort and really document that one ourselves. so we could focus on Crescent Beach. Because I think one of the things that came up last year, if I remember correctly, and I think some of you will remember, there was a gentleman here that talked about the mussel shoals, the mussel beds along the Crescent Beach Bridge that need to be looked at, because we're kind of losing them, right? That way we'll focus on environmental issues as well as more cultural resources, physical issues.
The other part that times really well with the South is this is the 100th anniversary of Castillo and Fort Matanzas becoming national monuments. So Crescent Beach looks right out over Fort Matanzas. So you can, there's great history to tie in as justification
So
for the timing.
on the Sinclair Lewis house, could we
I
talk
think
about?
we need to amend the motion, right? Because we have a motion on the floor, right? So.
I would amend the motion, I guess.
If you want to amend it or retract it, do it.
To focus on Crescent Beach for the grant proposal and encourage staff and board as appropriate to address this Florida Master Site file for the Sinclair Lewis house based upon its timing need.
Second the house back.
Okay.
Could I add something to that? Not only the Sinclair Lewis, but also the houses along, is it Farrell Road?
Right.
Yeah.
South Carolina.
Yeah, that's the one that's got several structures on it,
Yep.
correct?
Just contiguous to Farrell.
Which is the one street off of Delano Road. I thought.
And the
Yeah,
the
I'm not
significance
familiar
of
with
those being just,
Okay.
Research one for the grant. Be two motions.
Do we need to amend that or?
I'll second your motion,
Okay.
and then maybe I'll make another motion after.
Okay,
Yeah?
okay, that,
You gotta keep us on track.
okay.
Who's Robert's rules there?
All right. That would be me. So I'm going to call a question on the first motion, so we can move forward.
So it's been made and seconded.
So we need
so
to vote.
we'll take a vote on that motion, as complicated as it is.
Can we clarify the motion
Restate
for the
motion
record?
To submit, for the office to submit a grant application that will focus on Crescent Beach
Okay.
area, which has not been resurveyed since 2002. And that the staff, as appropriate with board assistance, will look at Sinclair Lewis house to generate a Florida Master Site file form for that property based on its need.
As well as the,
No, separate motion.
Separate.
Call,
Separate motion.
questions called, we gotta vote. Chief and Robert's
All right.
rules training.
who seconds it?
I seconded it already.
It was seconded already, let's take a vote. Mr. Olson,
Yes.
Ms. Jordan,
Yes.
Ms. Sheldrick,
Yes.
Ms. Knighting,
Yes.
Ms. Newman,
Yes.
Dr. Keyes, and I'll also vote yes. So that's seconded,
you got that.
voted on, and approved.
So then now I will make a motion to have staff with a board member work to survey a couple of the houses. How many houses are we thinking on Fairview,
Farrell Road, at the
Farrell.
RRO.
Like a
Yes.
feral cat?
Yeah.
With an
So
Farrell Road.
hopefully it's somebody
All
else.
sorts of things.
There's some chickens down there.
I'm not sure how many, I know there's,
Is it a
I just know
mile? Is it
one.
a like quarter mile road? What are we thinking?
it's probably quarter mile.
Yeah, that's
It's right
Okay.
here. It looks
Yeah.
about 15 to 20 structures.
Is that the only one that you know of? It's
yeah,
got
in that
structures?
immediate area. Yeah.
Okay,
The rest are fairly new.
So that's my motion.
I second.
Okay, let's vote on that motion. We're clear. Mr. Olson,
Yes.
Ms. Jordan,
Yes.
Ms. Sheldrick,
Yes.
Ms. Knighting,
Yes.
Ms. Newman,
Yes.
Dr. Keyes,
Yes.
and I will also vote yes. So that one's passed.
And through the chair, if I may, I, at this time, have not worked on any Florida Master Site Files through the county. So I just want to check with my supervisors and make sure that I can proceed with that before we're like 100% that's what's happening. And I can send an email to the board letting you guys know whether I can do it or if a board member
Yeah.
will need to do
I'll
it.
volunteer to help you.
Okay,
We can do it together.
perfect.
Just a clarification point, the grant is $50,000, that's the limit?
Up to, yes.
Up to, and that, is that for single, or could there be multiples of 50,000?
There is an opportunity for up to 2. However, the second one, there's another project which I am going to hit on at the end of this meeting. It has to do with Hastings that we are working towards
Okay.
with that second.
That's the next agenda item, is that correct?
It will tie into that, yes. And I'll provide it during my staff reports.
All right.
Small matching?
Yes.
I thought you could only have one per
Well-
municipality.
You can have them in more than one category.
For small matching?
Yeah, some of us actually went to Tallahassee to fight to make sure you could do that.
I didn't know you could do that.
Yes,
So you can get funding for 2 small matching grants.
one per category. So you could have a heritage education grant and a small matching survey grant, or rehabilitation, which is called development, or a non-CLG small matching, because CLG's federal pass-through.
Okay. Good clarification, thank you. Would that put agenda item number 1 to an end? Does that bring it to an end?
I have another little short presentation for you guys. No motion is necessarily needed for this. It was just some discussion at the last meeting. Let's see. Oops. Okay, so at the last meeting, there was lots of discussion about a National Register Historic District. I think it was discussed in relation to Crescent Beach and Hastings. So I think this point was made at the last meeting by Keely. It's just important to remember that this isn't really something that as the board you guys would initiate or as staff we would initiate. This is usually a community-driven initiative. And that is just because it makes more sense to have it come out of the community and already have that support before you get a year or 2 down the line and then you go to the community and no one wants it. So that's what we're trying to avoid by saying that it's a community-driven effort. So I'm just going to quickly go through some criteria for evaluation that the National Register uses. Everyone in here should be very familiar with this. Our land development code is directly derived from this. So it might look a little different, but this is where we got our criteria from. So quickly, they are looking for integrity of the site or structure or resource. So that's integrity of location, design, setting, materials, workmanship, feeling, and association. Again, that's the same thing we're looking for. Our land development code does require 3 of the 7. They don't have a number set to it, so I think it just depends on how significant the resource is and what they're looking for. But in addition to the integrity, they are looking for the resource to fall into one of these 4 categories. The first one being associated with a significant event or trend in history. The second one being associated with a significant person in history. C is associated with, or sorry, not associated with, but significant architecture. And D is usually reserved for archaeological sites that have the ability to yield more information about history or prehistory. So that is the criteria they use to evaluate.
Oh, excuse me.
Sure.
Just, this is drawn directly from from where?
This is directly from the state or even the National Park Service.
Okay,
Secretary of the Interior.
Yeah.
okay, and then did you say the LDC of the county requires that at least 3 of these 4?
Three of the 7 aspects of integrity.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Not.
And then just
ABC,
one of the 4.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Yep.
One of the 4.
Yep.
Okay, sure.
But the National Register does not.
does not require the 3, just 1. It has to hold integrity in some way. It still has to convey the historic character in some way, and that's what they're looking for with the integrity. Okay. And then as far as determining eligibility, there is and this, we don't have anyone from the public like we did at the last meeting, but they were kind of wondering what the role was of everyone. Generally, like I said, this comes from the community. If it's a single site, maybe that owner of the site hires a consultant and they would go forward through the process. There is a preliminary site information questionnaire that the state has provided. That it is geared more towards singular sites. Let's see if it will open for me. There we go. That if you guys get questions, you can direct people to this. This is just a really quick summary of your site or your district that you can send to the state, and they can give you a quick determination of if they even think it's worth going through the process. Let's hop back over here. So once you send, once the applicant, whoever that is, sends that off, the state will review it, and then they'll make a determination of eligibility. And that at that time, if it is determined to be eligible, that's kind of where myself is willing to step in. Again, I'm not the applicant, but if there's any questions about, can you give me a contact with the state? Can you help me find this document? Can you help answer this question? I am more than happy to assist with that side of things. I'll go through this really quickly, but this is just the process of how it moves from local all the way up to the top. First, the nomination is submitted to the state. The staff will review it. When the state receives the proposal, they are required to send a notification to the owner or owners, if it's the district, and the chief local elected official, so that would be BCC. It is not required for the owners or the chief elected official to respond, or for the state to wait for a response. They are just required to notify the owners. At that point, the staff will make sure the application is complete, and then they will set it for a date on the Florida National Register Review Board. That review board is just like you guys, they provide recommendations. So they will review it, provide a recommendation. If it is a favorable recommendation, the State Historic Preservation Officer will get together all of those documents in a nice little package and send it on to the keeper of the National Register, and the National Register makes that, or the keeper of the National Register makes that final determination whether to list the property or not. And when they do so, they will notify again the owners of that. And the only thing, this was brought up at the last meeting as well, so I'll just breeze over it. But as far as support versus objection goes, it doesn't require a certain percentage of support. It just requires the proposal not to have over 50% objection from the owners. So you don't need all of the owners to write in letters of support, but you just can't have 50% or more write in letters of objection. So that is all I have. Again, this was spurred, I believe, mostly from Janung's Fish Camp. They've been in communication with some of us, so they were concerned, but I think it's pretty prevalent for Hastings as well, with all the movement going on out there. So I just wanted to make sure we circled back to that. But that is all I have, unless you guys have any questions.
Mr. Chairman? Yes. Regarding the National Register, a couple things. First of all, survey, that's another reason that the survey for Crescent Beach would be really important, because I truly don't think they're prepared for a National Register nomination without an updated survey. The other thing is, within the last few months, legally it was last year, but the feds didn't issue regs. They have changed the National Register process. It's more challenging than it used to be in the past. Some of us thought it was challenging 4 years ago when they updated it. But just keep that in mind. So I think moving forward, this again, more justification for Crescent Beach, and then with the goal to verify that there are enough resources to move forward with the next phase. And that's not a motion, that's just a comment. But yeah, I just so you know, I sat in on a webinar with the state. Plus, everybody retired that used to be warm and fuzzy.
Thank you, Dr. Keys.
That's all I have.
All right, so that is, I think that's the end of agenda item 1.
Yes.
Again, agenda item 2 is Hastings Main Street Incorporated. And the board recognizes Ms. O'Hare, who's going to talk to us about an update.
Okie dokie. Well, everybody knows me, and I am officially the executive director, having been awarded the Florida Main Street designation. We're an apprentice program. So for the next 3 years, we are going to receive technical assistance from Florida Main Street coordinators and National Main Street coordinators, of which on June 18 and 19, the assessment team will be in Hastings and interviewing stakeholders. So if you're available and contacted, would appreciate your cooperation and support for an interview as needed. So let me give you a little bit of an update.
Cute, I've never seen that before.
Welcome to Hastings Main Street, Inc. We're excited to join the countless small towns across Florida and the nation in the effort to revitalize and maintain historic Main Street communities to promote economic growth within the context of historic preservation. There are a lot of things in the works. Check us out. HastingsFL.org.
Is that Sally in the bathing suit?
Pardon? Okay, so I am going to whiz through 134 years of history. And it is extracted from many surveys, Greg's book, and Dr. Keyes's memorabilia, PowerPoint information. But I did break it down succinctly, and we can whip through it. But this is the corridor of my focus these days. And it includes this area down here as well. But Hastings and that sign I'll talk to you about in just a minute. But we are in a critical crossroads now that development is pushing south and coming the other way. So the first 1850 to 1890 period, the establishment of Hastings was focusing in on transportation networks. We had rivers, railroads, and roadways. Those were the key themes of that particular period. And these are some of the historic photos collected. Of course, there's Henry and Federal Point Founder. That's where the waterway connection came in. And Palaca as well. And we'll be using those connective waterways when we talk about our strategic project on our train depot moves. So the next big chunk of time is from 1890 to 2017, where the town was founded, and it expanded, heydays in the 1920s through the 1940s, 45, 50, and then it ended in 2018. So, of course, Hastings, Thomas Horace Hastings, and his greenhouses and Prairie Garden were all critical to the history, and you probably reviewed this before, but these are some of the old structures, and significant in this period is the Old Dixie Highway as far as the roadways, and we're trying to strategically improve that this time too. So that brings us to the 21st century, and this is where Hastings High School was not torn down. It was salvaged. So we are very, very pleased that that did occur, and we have historic markers. We only have one in the town right now, which is at the library, the Hastings High School mark. And I did check with the county staff to see if there was a marker for the old Civic Center. And apparently it is no longer around if there was one. So my proposition as we move forward in our discussion is perhaps we need historic markers of some sort depicting where these locations are. So this is the entrance sign currently to the Hastings metropolis, if you will. The Potato Growers Association building, of course, is iconic, and it is under contract with a very favorable Montessori school looking to own it. So it's going to be grand. Of course, our high schools and the old jail, we'll talk about that. And this is the old Stanton building, Ford Stanton building. And then during this regrowth period, we did have the trail. The old train tracks were removed, and now we have a trail. And then now we've got the proposition of a new library and restoration along the street, and a lot of community engagement. So one of the good things about Hastings Main Street is that it has attracted old timers and new blood who live in the area that are focused on historic preservation and economic revitalization, which is a blessing to have done. Again, some old pictures of the visuals, and this is the building that was on the National Register that was torn down, the Civic Center, now to be replaced by the new library. So over time, it did a number on the place. And then these are the old depots that we have a substitute coming, but not exactly the same. So since we began our journey last year to now, we have a very, very strong communication network. We do emails, we have community meetings, we have podcasts, and if you haven't gone to hastingsfl.org, go there and listen to the weekly podcast, Readings from Hastings Herald 1919-1920 News. It is fascinating. And you think things have changed? We still have Deep Creek issues, roadway issues, school issues. I mean, it's amazing. What goes around comes around. This can be found on Facebook. And then this is another offshoot of our communication activity. It's Talk of the Town, and it is Talk of the Times. And we have a DC radio broadcaster, Michelle Murillo, who reads these. Beautiful voice. And I listened to the one that she created, Danny Boy. Her mother sang the song back in December, on December 31st. Oh, it's beautiful. Gotta listen to it. So this is our little Main Street district, and when we were visited last year by our Tallahassee cohorts, they gave us some parameters. Originally, I was looking at the whole overlay district of Hastings as the area to focus on, but we had to narrow it down to the commercial area. And that centralized commercial is from 207 up to the trail line here. And then we've got a little bit up here. And the reason we have a little bit up there is because this is where the original passenger train depot is, now the old daycare center. And since we've been talking about it, we wanted to move it, buy it, or do something. Last year, the owner has cleaned up the property, and maybe it'll be converted into some functional use. Hopefully, it could be an Airbnb, it could be any kind of a thing, but the structure is still there. It is not able to be moved. So, and then down at the south portion of the district, we've got the high school in Wilkie Park. So we've got a significant number of older buildings in the area. 29%, 23% is pretty significant. And that's in the district.
The green is the overlay?
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Yes. So it's a smaller area than the big old town district. And over the last year and recently presented to the county commission is all the infrastructure improvements that have continued to do since the 2018 activities. So the county has invested millions in Hastings and continue to do so to improve the roadways, the drainage, and that's one reason why the economic structure of the town has not grown. They don't have the capacity on the drainage and a lot of smaller infrastructure needs. But through recent grant money and the masterminds of the county have redirected their energies, and we have $30 million continuing the projects. And of course, we've got 18.5 to continue the renovation of the high school, and it will be in September, I believe. Deborah Gibson said that they will be moving the current library to the W.E. Harris Center, which is on the north portion of our district, and then they'll start the renovation process of this structure. Yes, sir.
Is regarding the high school property, National Register property, is the First Coast Technical College receiving federal funds to support that?
It's a mix of different pockets of money. Mostly it's CBDG, the block grant.
Okay, well, that would key to Section 106 reviews on the renovation.
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to.
Now, they also have a second economic development grant, and they're going to build a second building behind this structure to include build out of more classrooms. And that'll be 2 years following the completion of this project. So it was in February that the school board reassumed title of this property. So they've got big plans, and we're going to help them as much as we can. And this is the look of the new place. And I think everybody's probably seen that before. And it is more in alignment with the look of what it used to be than the first proposal. So this is the, in addition to the preservation of the buildings, we have encouragement for investments in the town center. And we've been actively soliciting and entertaining and educating everybody about the history and the value of what we've got on this particular corridor. So we've got up here, this is the old, it's at the corner of St. John's and North Main Street. This is where the hub of activity, where the depots used to sit, the carousel used to sit. So this is going to be redone. They've got new windows in it now. Everything's got a new coat of paint on the buildings all up and down the street. Park Avenue, Bell Seafood just opened a couple of weeks ago. So now we have a weekend seafood market that just opened. And then at 422 North Main, we're going to have Juniper Market, second location. And what has happened is we're attracting satellite locations for those businesses that have the capacity to survive without foot traffic. We're going to try to complement the foot traffic, but right now their strategies are they can, have less dense activity in these locations and build out and have a good service economy here. Then we have 107 East Avenue, the old jail. We have received permissions from the sheriff to go ahead and assume oversight.
They still own it?
They still own it. It's county property, and it's 14 by 24 feet, and we are going to convert it to a community center and or museum. Depends on what the community wants us to do. Then we've got the Stanton building that will be open in April for the Cabbage Festival. There's still some build out in the front section, but you can see the nice interior during our Cabbage Festival. And then we've got the two coffee shop or the Chocolata Bakeries, as well as the Hastings Coffee Company, Cookberry. And they were going to open at the end of March, but permitting, April 26th is a target date. So we've got a lot of things going. And we do have our Main Street office is going to come with the help of the county, they've converted the old inspection station to be the front section to be a place for Main Street workers to meet, and we have meeting space. And then we've got the new Mike's Pizza operation. That's a building that was built in 1924. It's not a contributing property, but it's an oldie, and he's done a good job of upgrading it. And then the First Baptist Church, of course, that's been there since the 20s, and they continually work to expand. They're building a basketball gymnasium court, so we've got a lot of things for the community to get into. So this is the northern area above the trail, and this is the focus of, that's the Potato Builders Association, and the focus of where we're going to put one of the depots that we were gifted. And then this is the southern quad of the area. And one thing that we face when we have our community meetings, which we did on Saturday, was they don't want to have overdevelopment, too much growth. So we're constantly looking for development in the area to make sure that we attract the right mix of people with the right mindset, and we are on the same page as far as the growth and the build out. So at the beginning of January, our board, which is now 1 year old, had a strategic planning session, and we all concluded that the visible improvements throughout the town district would be the most beneficial for everybody to see what is the undercurrent of the happenings in Hastings. So our strategic project, the first one is the pavers. What we're going to do is to dig up these grassy sidewalk areas and expand them so that we expand the sidewalks, and we also have greater ADA accessibility. Plus, it mirrors the look of the Old Dixie Highway bricks, and we have additional pavers that we are going to fundraise from as well. So we'll use additional bricks here for other community spots that we are going to. And we've already secured $30,000 from Rotary Foundation to do this. And it'll be done by March 31 next year, no later. Concurrently with that, we have to update the street lights. So we are working with FP&L with another grant, and the county. And the county is going to install lamp posts like this in front of the new library as they build out. And they are currently active building out that site. So when they dig up the sidewalks, we will have the light poles installed, and it will adorn the street to make it other than dirty, dark, and dingy at night. So this is the idea. And we are also trying to build into the landscape some sort of planters along the street. Don't know if it's going to be trees spaced so far, but we originally came up with these kinds of planters, but I think we'll be a little bit more sophisticated. We're looking at safety crosswalks up and down the boulevard too. The next strategic project we thought would get everybody's attention would be signage. So we've got the Hastings sign and we've got our welcome sign. What we're trying to do is try to figure out what that new sign is going to look like. It's probably going to be on the side of the road, not in the middle of the road, and it's got to be a breakaway sign, as I'm told by FDOT, because 207 is an FDOT right away. But we will come up with a plan, and we will have an entrance sign here from Palatka going east, and then from east going west, so that as you come through our little town, you do stop at the red light and maybe turn right. And then internally within the commercial district, we will be looking to put up wayfinding signage to point out spots of interest. And today, Jenna, our board chair, and Aaron Masters and Kelly McTaggart are down in Stewart at the quarterly workshop, of which they have speakers to focus on. One of the topics is wayfinding signage. And I've done multiple wayfinding sign activities with FDOT and local municipalities. Another strategic activity is murals. You've been to Palaca and DeLand and some of the other places around the state. It's a very popular and well-received art form, public art form, and we have a built-in homegrown mural right there on the side of the, I call it the Firestone building because it says Firestone, but it's the 316 building. And Alan Dennis has painstakingly scraped this off, and they were going to repaint it until he started prepping it. He said, "Oh, there's something under here," and he's been doing it for months. But they're trying to find a way to preserve it intact and make sure it doesn't disappear. So we do have the Highwaymen Bacchus paintings upstairs at 301. We're still trying to figure out a way to preserve and protect that before we open up to the public. But because of Jenna Dennis's long-standing relationship with the Highwaymen through her antique business, we have garnered the talents of R.L. Lewis to create some scenes for us to begin discussing grant funding and future murals on walls in Hastings. So it's going to be a good day in Hastings. And this is Jenna's new building look. So it's looking good. Another strategic project that just kind of fell into our lap, thank you Airport Authority, is the gifting of 2 passenger or train depots. This is the larger one, this is a smaller one. So what we plan to do is to move these structures via Intercoastal Waterway on barge over to Palaca and then overland from Palaca to Hastings. Needs to be done by September 1. So we're in the process of fundraising. So on the back of this little handout, there's a QR code. Feel free to donate.
You might want to add how those buildings are going to be moved to the water from where they are. They are to be moved across the airport, across active aircraft areas that are under us, within a large security fence. I mean, that part of the airport is fully secured by these high fences. Anyway, portions of the fence have to be removed, obviously, to get this to, there's a docking area that Northrop Grumman uses and amphibious aircraft uses at the waterway, so on the other side of the airport. So that's how they're going to be moved. So flights will be held for a period of time as those.
It's going to be eventful.
But the airport authority is absolutely delighted that because they've essentially been warehoused.
Yeah.
And they're totally out of context.
Right.
I mean, there. So.
We will put them to good use, believe me.
Right.
This one we are going to make, the end use is going to be on the trail. So if it fits, and we've got Walter O'Con helping us do some diagrams and stuff because I need to apply for a grant for funding. But if it fits, this will go on the trail, and we will add restrooms probably outside of the building with a separate structure or something to make amenities. And we are applying for a Florida Trail Town designation. So that will enhance that as a trail town for Hastings. So that's the larger of the 2. This smaller one is going to go on the same property as the landmark old jail. And there's enough room. I think this is 42 by 58 feet. And then there's not enough room left for a small community garden, which the Council on Aging wants to move their W.E. Harris garden to this location. And we were thinking we could use the pavers, picnic benches, and landscape the property to make it a pocket park museum area. And whether we want to narrate the old jail history, but we want to be sensitive to the culture that we are in and make sure we don't offend anybody as we do our narrations and such.
I have a suggestion. So, have you ever been to Dunedin?
Where?
Dunedin on the West Coast?
Yes.
They have that trail with the depot with like
Uh-huh.
bathrooms. It's exactly what you're talking about doing. So
Yeah.
that's a good example.
Yeah.
Very successful.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So
It,
that's
it, it
awesome.
draws people,
Yes.
and we're blessed.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So another part of our strategic activities is to make sure we redefine the overlay district with protections so that we've got design codes and certain build out codes within our little district, our commercial district, and the greater overlay area so that we don't get too out of whack with builders coming in, because people are coming. And Jenna is in the real estate business, and she said when the town dissolved in 2018, that's when all the developers and all the land grabbers were asking questions big time. So it's going to continue. We understand that, and we want to strike a balance between what's okay to stay and what's okay to go. So we're very seriously looking at the overlay district with some guidelines. And just recently, Florida Main Street had enlisted Downtown Redevelopment Corporation to develop some guidelines for small, medium, and large communities to do code analysis for the land development codes. And I'm up to my eyeballs in code looking at that stuff too. So we're trying to think of all the angles to provide protections and positive good growth to the area. And these are just some snaps of the areas. We did look at Bull's Hit Ranch, and this was the old freight depot, but boy, it's got a lot of stuff in there. And we would love to relocate that, but Tater's not going to let us relocate that. So we're happy with the new acquisitions of our train depots. So that brings us to more protections. East Jacksonville, and I was just down in St. Cloud recently, they've got a lot of historic places that they have so designated with markers and such. If it's feasible, it would be nice to have the district protected rather than individually doing these applications. We do have, as I say, the Potato Growers Association up for grabs now. It's not designated. First Baptist Church is not designated. And we've got over 50% of the properties in the district not protected. We did get the historic tax credit for Jenna's building, the 301 Stanton and the 316 building. And then we've got the old jail as the landmark property, but that's about it. And those are, at a minimum, culturally significant. And we don't want them to go away like the library did, so, or the Civic Center did. So 415 was built in 1925. That's where the barber shop is on the trail. And Haley did a review, and it was deemed significantly culturally significant. And this is at the point, this is it right here. And this is the old Dixie Highway, and this is the one with the new windows. So it can be declared, with a status. Right now it's not, and it was in, golly, a couple of years ago, it was left in limbo. 2020, I think was, but no further action was taken on it. So things kind of fall through the cracks until you're on top of them. 401 North Main is the, where is it? Oh yeah, that's the new site. 101 East Cochran, that's the Praise, that one. The old Exchange Bank in Hastings. That's not designated. And that's been there a long time, 1900, and beautiful contribution to the district. Then the tricolor building, the build out here, some of those areas are potentially, but not really significant. But collectively, I think we've got something. I mean, we got some changes, and no, it's not strictly following all the rules, but we do have significant cultural resources, like the First Baptist Church. And this is the Stanton home, right across from the Stanton building. That is potentially significant. 100 Park Avenue, that's where the hotel property is, and Bell's Seafood is right behind that area over here, and this was the old hotel area. Of course, it's all gone, but it would be nice to have a marker or something there, and we'll wait to see what the Beaux-Arts want to build out and do with the property. This is Gator Sales, and that was, it's got a couple of different dates that I found so far, 1915 and then 1938. It's totally not strictly, an old building, but it's an old building and a contributing building. So, and then on the outside of our little town district area, we do have other significant properties that are not designated. I mean, this is the church, United Methodist Church. And then post office has been there too. So we do have a lot of things that we want to share with the community, and I hope you got your menu. But one of the things is that in doing all this good research, I got my hands on about 11 of 15 old cabbage potatoes programs. Every year they do a program. They did it in a bigger size, 11 by 8.5, but it's filled with history of the old families. And one of our exercises is to record old histories and do walking tours with the old families. So please join us for our Cabbage, Potato, and Bacon Festival. It's going to be a blowout. So I would like to seriously consider expanding the properties identified by Haley as culturally significant. It can be done with staff review versus the arduous task of the landmark designation. But that's a step in the right direction for protections. So that's my case.
Thank you.
Public comment?
Public comment, open public comment, yes.
Thank you. I'd like to commend Ms. O'Hara. That was a tour de force. It was magnificent. I agree with every word. Trey Alexander Asner was right when he told supervision that Hastings needs to be a National Historic District. And he was told by his smug superiors, they're not superior, they're just supervisors, told, that's too much paperwork. It's the right thing to do. Here we right a wrong. It's kind of like the monument to the Japanese internees in Washington, D.C., where it says words to the effect of, here we right a wrong. It's a historic monument right by the Hyatt Regency there in Washington, D.C., to the Japanese who were interned. We need to apologize to the people of Hastings, though. Our former county administrator, Michael David Wanchik, stirred up de-towning Hastings. Hastings is no longer a town, because Mr. Wanchik doesn't care for black people, and he certainly didn't care for black people's history. And it's kind of like Michael Dukakis said, a fish rots from the head. We've had bad leadership in St. Johns County, but thanks to Ms. O'Hara and thanks to this board, I look forward to Hastings being a National Historic District, just as Trey Asner recommended when his supervisors got him canned. But thank you, Ms. O'Hara. There's one thing I want to quibble with, though, for the record, and hopefully learned counsel from the county attorney's office will weigh in on this someday. Ms. O'Hara said something to the effect that they didn't want to offend anyone. Well, there's a lovely line in the musical movie 1776 where the John Adams character says, this is a revolution, or no, the Jefferson character says, this is a revolution. We've got to offend somebody. This is telling history. We're not going to worry about offending somebody if we talk about segregationist or white supremacy history, are we? That's out the door. That's inadmissible. It's improper, and it's a violation of the First Amendment. And I finally remember one of our former mayors from St. Augustine. We raised his consciousness since. Lovely, lovely man, but we sometimes disagreed, George Gardner. And he actually said once in response to the rainbow flags on the Bridge of Lions and the 1566 murder of a gay French translator of the Wallay Indian language, he actually said, oh, we only need to tell positive history. Well, history is history. And it includes segregation, it includes racism, it includes misogyny, includes a bunch of bad stuff. So please don't let me ever hear anybody say we don't want to offend anybody in telling history. That is so DeSantis, it is so fascist, it is so wrong, and it's just a violation of the First Amendment. We have a right to speak our history, all of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Okay. To kind of close on this agenda item, Ms. O'Hare, just let us know what we can help with. If there's something that's here in front of our review board that we haven't taken action on,
Right.
Hold us to it.
Okay, well, one of the items in researching the old jail stuff, I ran across the BOCC agenda from 2020. And buried in that agenda was the approval of the Hastings Hotel as a landmark area. Well, there's nothing there to indicate. I mean, it's now decayed and deteriorated. So this is what I'm talking about. It gets buried in the paperwork. And we need to just try to stay on top of it. And I would like to adopt what St. Cloud has done is they have a National Historic District too. And on older properties, the property owner can apply for a plaque, and it's funded through Main Street. So just a designation or a little history or something to preserve what we have.
Just a note, because that's National Register listing's been talked about for decades now. You can certainly do the buildings that are contiguous to each other. You might be able to leave the railroad tracks, maybe.
Yeah.
Stuff on the south side would have to be done individually, or you can pursue what's called a thematic designation, but you cannot include. And there is no such thing as vacant land, despite the use of that term.
Right.
But you cannot include open land in a National Register Historic District.
Right. Well,
So
Main Street districts aren't congruent with NHR districts. I mean, they can be mix and match, but close to what we have as a town district.
yeah, I mean, as far as National Register listing as opposed to Main Street property, they're two distinct.
Okay. Any other comments from anyone?
On Hastings?
Mhm.
Oh, I was going to add this in just member comments at the end of the meeting, but I do want to credit for the record. I believe the first introduction between Jenna, the chair of the board, and the connection with the two buildings that are to be moved was through Trey Asner, and I want to give him credit for it. He and I were talking about it last year when I knew that they had to be moved for redevelopment along US 1, and he ended up calling me, I guess, in December at some point, saying he had talked to Jen. And so I just want to, for the record, make that known. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Mr.
very
Olson.
much.
Yep.
I do have a question for staff through the chair. For the overlay, it seems like that's an easy way to add a little bit of protection for these buildings. I mean, if staff's interested, regulating new construction scale, massing, it's very easy to put in overlays that the buildings have to be up close to the building, no parking lots in front. I mean, I think that kind of stuff is really inherent, and I don't know what the overlay already has. I've never seen a demo delay in an overlay, because usually a demo delay is in a local district, but I don't know, maybe we could look into that too, so we don't have to, if we're nervous that the downtown area is not contiguous, like Leslie was alluding to, because that does have a problem when you have a bunch of vacant parcels in between historic properties. Maybe you could look into like some type of demolition delay in the overlay, since it's already an existing, in zoning code is the strongest you've got, right? National Register is great and all, but there's no teeth, and so the overlay is the way, if it's already existing, it's so easy just to modify. So those are just my thoughts.
And the designation of cultural significance for Magic Beach Hotel had the result of it not being demoed. So it was a good move, and I think it's positive.
Have you started the process on the overlay district?
Yeah, we've been working with Karen Taylor for the last year, and we hope to have it by June, maybe put together. We're kind of crafting a mirror image of West Augustine and what is there now into two separate components, and defining the build out, like parking, the curbside, and all this other technical stuff.
Okay. Great. Thank you. Anything else on this agenda item?
Through the chair, if I may, I think it would be a good opportunity when you guys do have that kind of more finalized at a time that you can bring it to us, that we would love a presentation about the criteria that you guys are proposing.
Definitely. We got to get there first.
Yes.
All right. Okay, that brings us to any board member reports that we may have.
I, of course, have some.
Okay.
First of all, Barrancadas is a brand new county landmark. By the way, I'm antisocial, but I do use LinkedIn, and hundreds and hundreds of people weighed in on that very positively. So very nice to see.
Great.
Florida Black History Museum submission by St. Johns County. Okay, keep in mind, we're still in basketball season. Made it to the Elite Eight. And on April 19th, there will be presentations in Tallahassee for those that are chosen to be the final four. So if anybody is interested, there's a Tallahassee Democrat article that I think I might not have sent. But anyway, I can send it to Aileen. She can circulate that. But suffice it to say that ours is the only nomination that actually goes back to 1565 and forward in the positive Black history, as well as just Jim Crow and civil rights.
Some of the other competitors are curious to me as to how they can get it to the final.
Well, if you look at the members on the Florida Historical Marker Commission, or excuse me, Black History Task Force Commission, that might give you some hints.
Okay.
Bartram 250, this is the 250th anniversary of the Bartram Trail. I know that they're going to have an exhibit in the lobby of the County Administration Building. I think the kickoff starts April 17th on that information. And the other thing that is coming up is America 250. Even though it's not till 2026, the events for the 250th Declaration of Independence will actually begin in early 2025. So we're hoping to have some partnerships on that. So if anybody wants to know more about that, let me know. I'm a volunteer. So.
Thank you, Dr. Keys. Any other board member reports? Okay. Any staff report?
I have a couple, and I'll go through them quickly here. There was an ad valorem tax exemption that the BCC heard a month or two ago that did not come before you guys because it was within the city limits, so it went through the St. Augustine city limits, but that was approved, so that's a third of just this year for ad valorem tax exemptions.
What's the address?
30 Sanford Street.
Okay. So Lincolnville.
Mm-hmm. Barrancados was on my list, but Dr. Keys hit that. The Lodge and Hut property that she was referring to earlier, just, I guess it would have been last month in March, was officially designated on the National Register. And then I am working on a proclamation for National Historic Preservation Month. for May 21st is when we're going to see that at BCC. So they'll read a proclamation. The theme this year is the same as last year. It's people saving places. And to go along with that, we recently rediscovered some old Hastings documents that we are going to be looking through and having on display at that meeting. So there will be kind of a whole presentation. You guys are very much encouraged to come. And anybody else who's in the historic preservation community, please have them come. They'll stand up with us, and there will be a whole event to go along with that. So
Please bring lots of warm bodies.
yes.
Give me opportunity.
And lastly, I will talk about the Canwright House. We have an update on that, and at one of the recent meetings, it was decided to be relocated from, instead of going to Windswept Acres, it is now going to Collier Blocker Park. And that is the house current as it sits right now is being prepped, has already been prepped for movement. So it's ready for the equipment to go in there and lift it up and start the move. They're shooting for about the middle of the month, this month. And then it is like a 2-stage transfer. They have to get it from where it sits to all the way to Collier Blocker. It has to be transferred from one vehicle or one truck to a different truck. So it is a very intensive process that they're going to have to go through. But they are hoping for the placement and the site beautification and that whole process that they're going to go for at the park between May and June, and hopefully ribbon cutting sometime in June. That is the goal as of right now. I'll keep everybody updated on that process.
Can I make a suggestion on the date? Juneteenth.
That is on here, yes. That is what we're shooting for. Yes, that is what we are shooting for. So that is all I have for you guys that I have written down. If you guys have any questions for me.
Through the chair, do you have the large impact nomination?
The full application
Yeah, I was
packet?
just curious to read
I
it,
believe
so-
I sent it to you guys.
Oh, I'll look.
Okay, I can resend it though.
Well, the other thing is, now that it's listed, you can go back through and send it to whoever the contact is at State or Park Service. They'll send you one with a signed name on it.
Okay.
In other words, just so it doesn't look like draft.
Yep, okay.
Signature from somebody from the keeper's office or the sheriff's office.
Okay, I'll get that resent.
Any other items from anyone on the board or on the phone? The audience? Okay. It is now 3:02, and we will adjourn the meeting of Monday, April 8th, 2024. Just in time for the missed